Another way we can reduce our carbon dioxide emissions is through our energy. So thinking about our power plants, our coal-powered plants, or even our natural gas used in your home. When it comes to energy, there's two different concepts. There's energy conservation and energy efficiency. And these two concepts are very different from one another. They have the same goal, but they're different. Conservation applies to not using the energy in the first place. So for example, you've probably been yelled at your entire life to turn the lights off when you leave the room. Turn your video game consoles off when you're done playing them. Turn your computer off when you're done on your computer. All of these are types of energy conservation. You are not using that energy in the first place. That means that is not coal being burned on your behalf to fuel lights that you're not even using. Another way to conserve energy is to unplug your devices. Different appliances, computers, toasters, blenders, TVs, they actually still draw energy even if they're off, if they're plugged in. It's not a lot, so I will preface it. It's not like half of your power bill is this ghost energy, as they call it. But a little bit of it is. So what you can do for things you don't use that often, unplug them when you're done with them. For example, a toaster. Your toaster does not need to sit on your counter plugged in all the time. If you're using it every morning, yeah, that might be convenient. But if you're not, unplug it, put it away. If you're going out of town, even for a weekend, unplug some of your devices. Unplug the TV, unplug the microwave, unplug different lamps. This is really, really good on vacation too. It's just unplug everything. Again, that's conserving energy. You're not using that energy to begin with. Efficiency, though, is a little bit different. Efficiency is you're still doing a task, so still doing a task, but using less energy to do it. So conservation would not be doing the task. It would be turning the lights off. Energy efficiency is, hey, I'm going to keep my lights on, but I'm going to use less energy to do so. There are energy efficiency companies that'll certify your products, such as Energy Star. Energy Star is typically in different appliances like a dishwasher or washing machine. It's still washing your clothes, it's still washing your dishes, still doing a task, but it's going to use a lot less energy to do that task versus how we used to do those things. Light bulbs are a really great example of this. The new CFL, those curly light bulbs, or LED light bulbs, they use a lot less energy. In this LED example, this light bulb uses 4.4 watts, which is a unit of energy. However, it has the same brightness as our traditional 20-watt bulbs. So the 20-watt bulb shines, the 4.4-watt bulb shines. They shine the same amount, just this one uses less energy to do so. So again, still the same task, it's lighting up a room, but you're using less energy to do so. This efficiency word is used for fuel as well. When you think of a car being more fuel efficient, car is still moving from A to B, but using less fuel to do so. Also related to energy is investing in renewable energy. Now, you might live in an apartment, which is where I live, and you might not get that choice. I can't say, hey, can you guys put solar panels on the roof of my apartment complex? They don't care. They're not going to listen to you. But some energy companies will let you purchase your energy through a renewable or an inexhaustible energy source. You can choose, like on your bill, hey, give me energy from the solar farms that you guys use. Typically, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's at least some way. If you can't have the solar panels on your roof, maybe that company has their own solar panels that they will supply you energy from. You pay a little bit more for it, but you're still at least doing your part. Now, of course, there's going to be downsides to all of these. Some of you guys researched those in your environmental controversy project. The wind isn't always blowing. The sun isn't always shining. This is almost like a wind turbine. This is actually underwater, so taking advantage of wave energy. A hydroelectric dam, there's going to be droughts. It's not always going to be running. So there are downsides, but again, moving in the direction of lowering our dependency on fossil fuels. So that was all about carbon dioxide. Again, carbon dioxide, the major problem is that it's being released with fossil fuels. Methane is being released during anaerobic respiration. Rice and cows contribute to anaerobic respiration, and climate change in general is releasing more methane in that permafrost. So the major way that we can help reduce emissions is our food. And, I give Chick-fil-A its props. Chick-fil-A's got the right idea. Eat more chicken. So eat less beef, go for chicken. Beef, or our cows, are contributing to that methane problem. So you might be like, no, I can't cut out steak. I can't cut out that burger. Instead of having burgers 5 times a week, why don't you try 4 times a week? That's going to lessen the demand for beef, meaning there's going to be less production of the beef, and therefore less cows to produce that methane. This video that you guys will watch here in a second is looking at landfills. Landfills produce quite a lot of methane too because they have anaerobic respiration of the bacteria that are deep inside that landfill. This is going to talk about a really cool way that this New York landfill is taking advantage of the methane released. Another really great way to reduce our emissions. So go ahead and pause here and take a look at this video. And then finally, and this is kind of more obscure, is trying to make a change at the political level. You guys may not be planning to run for Congress or be the governor or run for the Senate, but that doesn't mean you can't make a difference. You can get involved in different rallies. So for example, this was the March for Science that happened on Earth Day, and I will make a mention of that. April 22nd is Earth Day. Be sure to know that date. It was a very important date. So getting involved in something like this, getting involved in protests, getting involved in letter writing and phone calls, and kind of pushing our Congress to do stuff, to do more stuff. So it doesn't hurt to get involved and to be like one of the numbers that's helping with these different movements. Go ahead and pause here for a video. This video isn't necessarily related to a protest. It's actually looking at companies. Companies are getting involved in this too and using the funds from their company in order to make a change. So this video is just an advertisement for a company, but you'll see how they're integrating the environment into, their message and how they are using their company and using their product as a way to educate people. So go ahead and pause here and take a look at this. So what is happening? At the government level, the United States gets a lot of flack saying that, oh, we're not doing enough, we pulled out of the Paris Treaty, we don't believe in climate change. That's not quite true though. We actually do have regulations. The United States' emissions are declining because we do have regulations. No, they're not as strong as our counterparts in the European Union, but we do have them. So although the United States kind of gets a bad rep when we talk about different things in this class, I do want to say we are doing something about climate change. Is it enough? That's open to interpretation. It's more than China is currently doing. So here's some things that we are doing. 1, vehicle efficiency. Our vehicles are getting better and getting more efficient. Not just fuel efficient, but we're learning new technologies in order to sequester or in order to grab out the greenhouse gases and other gases we release in our cars. Currently, we have a law that's currently being enacted that by year 2025, the vehicles released in 2025, their vehicles are going to emit about half the greenhouse gas emissions than they currently do. Which that's in the next, 7-8 years, we're going to reduce the greenhouse gases we release by half. Also, new power plants are getting a lot more regulations because, again, when we burn coal and when we burn natural gas and oil, they release carbon dioxide. So new power plants have new regulations to cut their emissions. Even existing power plants are getting new standards for their emissions as well. They're allowed a little bit more time since they have to invest in new technology. What's happening though is these places, these smaller power plants, are kind of going out of business. They can't afford the new technologies. So it's kind of a waste, we're wasting that building and all these resources that went into that building, but it's because we're trying to improve the emissions that are being released. And then finally, here in the United States, we're also helping with financing in other countries. We're helping them shape their environmental regulations. Not so much the EU, they kind of know what they're doing, but we are helping different developing countries kind of giving guidance. We actually gave China a lot of ideas on different programs, which we'll talk about in the next section, because if China's emitting a lot, that's our problem too. That's everyone's problem. So we are helping other countries. So when reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, we can do quite a bit. We can lower the amount of energy we're using by turning off lights or being more efficient with our lights, as well as other technologies. We can use public transportation or even carpool. We can reduce our beef consumption, and we can put pressure on our government. But our government is doing stuff. Don't think we're not doing anything. Are we doing enough? That's up to interpretation, but we are doing something.